tell you a little bit about why teacher training is harder than it looks. Just to admit that I gave this talk at the English Studio Symposium, which happened last November time or so. So I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, but this is my insights into about 10 years of experience as a teacher trainer. Okay, and so this is Loughbray. And looking for a metaphor for teacher training, I was thinking, I thought about the time I took my wife on a hike to the upper lake in Loughbray, which is in the Wicklow Mountains. So there are two lakes, either the lower lake and an upper lake. Yeah? And when you're at the lower lake, you can't see the upper lake. But I grew up in this area, this part of Wicklow, and so I said, come on, I'll take you on a hike to the upper lake. And so she was like, ooh, quite boggy, slippery and uneven. And then she said, where's the path gone? Are we there yet? I don't. And then she said, I didn't think it would be an expedition. And this is as a metaphor for teacher training, when you are working with new teachers and you're bringing them through the steps, it kind of starts like, oh yeah, that sounds like a fantastic destination where I want to go to. And as they get into it, they start to go, oh, it's a bit, bit more challenging than I thought it might be. And then they might lose the track, and they're going, oh, am I there yet? Am I a teacher yet? Have I got it done yet? And then there comes the point, I think, where everybody who does the training to be a teacher, they go, I didn't think it would be an expedition. And so we as trainers have to think about that. What equipment do they need to be successful on this expedition to be a teacher trainer? What are the different skills and knowledge that's needed? So I'm going to give you a minute of pair work just to have a chat, and then I'll give you my list. Okay? So what does the trainee teacher need to get from teacher training in order to be a good teacher?
The trainer.
The trainee.
The trainee.
The trainee. Yeah? What does the person who's learning to be a teacher, what do they need to get from the training? we don't run out of time. Yeah. That would be a bad model. We run out of time. So, can you shout me a few things? What does a trainee teacher need to be equipped to be a good teacher?
Knowledge.
Knowledge, okay. Now, can you be more specific?
Yes, knowledge of the subject they're teaching.
So language knowledge, okay,
Yeah.
great. Right, what else?
Understanding of the different levels, like what we call elementary, pre-intermediate, intermediate, what that means, you know, in terms of grammar, vocabulary, fluency, etc.
Okay, so that's kind of teaching knowledge, or the way teachers describe what they do. All right, what else?
Self-reflection.
Self-reflection. Okay, that's very important. The kind of, that didn't work for me. Why mightn't it have worked? What might I do differently? Yeah, and people go, oh yeah, you've got to do reflection. But I think it's something that either some people are not very good at, and they need to learn. It's one of those skills that it's not the subject knowledge about teaching, about language, but it's something that is important to being successful at it. But then they just tell you to do it. They don't. There's not. Often there isn't much kind of training in it.
Yes.
Okay, what else?
Good listener.
Good listener. Oh yeah, that's one of my favourites. Good listens. How do I know what the students need to learn? Listen. They'll tell you. They'll tell you. But you have to listen. Yeah. Okay, what else?
Good communicator, to be able to deliver the knowledge to the student.
Yes. And
Methodology.
slowly and broken down, yeah. Methodology, so it's the how to do it. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I have. I've got that, subject knowledge, teaching techniques, which comes under kind of methodology. Organisation, yeah, very important. I think a teacher needs to be organised. If you come into teacher training as someone who's not a planner, not an organiser, you're going to struggle because people think it's a kind of a freewheeling humanist endeavour, which it is in some ways, but without planning, without organising, nothing happens. Consistent approach. Today I believe in this. Tomorrow I change my mind, and the students are like, "Wait a minute, you sold us on that yesterday, and now you're doing something completely different." So consistent approach, I think, is one of the most important things. That anything can work, really, as long as it's applied consistently. Like working with people, that's essential. You know, if you have any doubts about your tolerance for people and their little quirks and that, you're not gonna enjoy this expedition. Listen. There's my ability to listen. People think it's about ability to talk, but it's much more about an ability to listen. Comfort with silence. Yeah, that's one that people find hard. It's like silences need to be filled. The idea of silences need to be filled. But with students, often, even especially with low-level students, the silence is they're thinking. They're kind of going. They're trying to work it out. Do I know the answer? What am I going to say? Am I ready to say it? And if you're kind of getting nervous because there's no answer to your question coming back yet, then you're going to prevent them from contributing anything. Self-awareness, there it is, which is the reflection point that Lisa mentioned. So, awareness of what? What do you have to be aware of? When you're, as a teacher, what is it that you have to see in the fog in order to be able to moderate what you do and control it properly? And so the things are coming out of the mists. You have to be aware of what your values are as an educator. What do you think is important about how it works and what makes it work? So my values as an educator are autonomy, that the students should take responsibility for as much of the learning process as possible. Descriptivism, that language is not about rules, it's about conventions of use. You're not going to find me going around saying can for permission is not acceptable, must be always may. or 5 items or less is not acceptable. It must be 5 items or fewer, which is the prescriptive approach to grammar. Rules, rules, rules. Never mind what people say, really.
You draw the line somewhere, though. What about fields for feelings?
Yeah, you have to have...
What about my bad from my mistake?
Anything is correct as long as it's appropriate to context and it is understandable. Okay, context can be regional context. So they say that in Wexford, but you couldn't go to Dublin and say that. Then that's where you might have to draw the line. But if your student is not ever intending to use their English outside of Wexford, maybe it's not right to draw that line. You know, so that's my value in that is, okay, we need to be a bit flexible, especially because as Irish people teaching English, you know, if we have English people coming over us to tell us, you know, oh, you're not doing that right. You know, so that's where I've arrived at that. And assessment for learning, which is not grading every piece of homework, but trying to give pointers to how it could be done better. So make sure that any assessment, apart from kind of key progress marking assessments, in-class assessments are not about grades, they're about learning. So that's my values, okay, as an educator. But you kind of have to know that. If you're a prescriptivist, that's fine, but just admit it to yourself. You know, that you're saying, no, I cannot let the standard slip. It must be 5 items or fewer. And you go around to TESOL with a marker and change all the signs on the express queue.
Isn't everybody?
or adding apostrophes where they're missing in the shops, or, you know, all of that kind of thing. But that's fine if that's your approach. The point is to be aware of it. You know, if you believe that grading is an important marker to the students so that they know how they're doing, then that's fine. You've got to believe in it. If you think, well, no, the autonomy doesn't work, students are not able to take responsibility for their own learning, that's fine, but you need to be clear on that with yourself, that's what lies behind the decisions that you're making. Yeah, aware of your learning preferences, because you're going to inflict them on the students. And they might not suit the students. Yeah. So when I'm learning, I always like to, in my case, I love an inductive approach. Like, here's a bit of language. What do you think the rule might be? And that I like that. Some students hate that, but I intend to inflict it on my students. And I've got to accept that there are some students don't want or don't need that, and so maybe I've got to give them, you know, a more deductive, here's the rules, now here's the exercise kind of an approach. But you need to be aware of that in yourself, so that you don't then unthinkingly inflict it on your students. The presence, your physical presence. Some people, after learning to be a teacher, don't know what to do with their physical presence. And they don't know how to monitor a student, and they're there kind of, you know, standing over them and intimidating them, and then they discover that doesn't work, and so they're afraid to approach them at all. And where you put yourself in the room, you can be invisible, you can be demand attention, and how you manage your physical presence is a big part of what it is to be a teacher, and that's something in the awareness that doesn't appear in the curriculum, but it is essential to the success of a teacher. Your tics or habits, and your students will tell you what they are after a while. So you have to be comfortable with having that exposed. You know? If you say "and so" or "anyway" or whatever it is your tic is. Mine is this one. I just roll it. The harder I'm trying to explain something, the more. So that's you know, to be comfortable with having that out there as a teacher. Okay. Transmission received. This is the pure transmitter in the Dublin Mountains. Transmission received. This is as trainers, we're trying to get these things across to the trainees. And you know, you tell them these things, and they kind of go, oh yeah. Oh, well, you didn't really need to tell me that. You know, it's kind of obvious. And so you have transmitted the information. You transmitted this is essential, this is important, or whatever. And then when they stand up to do the class, that it becomes as if you'd never had said that and they never agreed to do it. Yeah? And so there's something else going on. What's stopping them? What's the roadblock? Yeah? This is what I have come up with as the roadblocks as a teacher. Yeah? You have the template teacher. That means when they were students, there is somebody who has set the template for them. This is what a teacher looks like. This is what a teacher is or does. And that may not be even their favorite teacher or a teacher that they liked or admired. It could be the teacher they don't like, and they, like, you know, you become your parents. It can end up a bit like that. You become the teacher that you used to have, and maybe not necessarily the one that you liked. Personal passions, they're a big block. I always get worried about people who say, I want to teach English because I love the language. And I'm like, maybe that's not the right reason, because you're not going to get to talk about those quirks of the language most of the time. Yeah? Because, you know, oh yeah, and another funny meaning for that word is, and you kind of go, no, that's not, it's interesting, but it's not useful. The students don't need to know that. So that sometimes can get in the way. Other passions, you know, I love music, and then my class is always about music, and then that can get in the way as well. Putting on a big show, you know, the idea of teaching as a performance. It's not really. It's more of a facilitation. It's letting other people perform. It's get off the stage, finding ways to get off the stage and put them on the stage. And so if you expect to be the performance, then you're not going to want to get off the stage. And that gets in the way. The elastic band is one of my favorites. Yeah, you spend lots of time getting the person from this point to that point, and you go, oh, they go, okay, I see what you mean, I see what I need to do. Okay, next time I'll do that. And you let go and it goes dong, right back to where it started. And it is that elastic band kind of thing, you know. Not so transferable. There are things that you do in some areas of your life that you think, well, if you do that, then you must be able to do this. But when you transfer it into the teaching area, it doesn't immediately come across. So, for example, if you're coach, sports coach or something like that, then you must be used to giving clear, broken down